An elderly woman's heart medication ran out amidst the fiercest blizzard in 3 decades. Emergency services had ceased all operations, leaving her utterly alone. That is, until Peter, a simple delivery driver, defied the elements and risked his life to reach her. When the storm finally lifted, Air Force pararescue teams would find themselves landing in Peter's backyard, transforming an ordinary delivery into a truly extraordinary tale. Peter, a 55-year-old delivery driver, had devoted his entire life to Pine Ridge, Colorado. Unlike many men his age, who aspired to climb corporate ladders or plan early retirements, Peter discovered his deepest purpose in the winding delivery routes and the connections he forged with the people along them. His wife, Sarah, often remarked to friends that Peter knew every back road and shortcut across 3 counties, along with the precise address of everyone who resided there. Peter's journey with Valley Pharmacy began at the tender age of 16, starting as a delivery boy on a bicycle. Townfolk still spoke of how he worked his way up to that white van everyone recognizes. Tom Winters, the pharmacy owner, had for a decade tried in vain to persuade Peter to take on a manager's role. "You could be making twice what you're making now," Tom would often insist during their Friday coffee meetings, but Peter understood that money wasn't everything. He had witnessed firsthand the vital difference his reliable deliveries made to the elderly and homebound, particularly during Colorado's brutal winters, when reaching town became an insurmountable challenge. That particular Thursday night in February, forecasters had been issuing grave warnings about the approaching storm for days. Most residents had heeded the advice, stocking up and hunkering down. By 6 p.m., Pine Ridge was a ghost town, with snow already piling deep on deserted streets. Peter was just about to call it a night and head home when the pharmacy phone rang. Tom answered, already shrugging into his coat, preparing to leave. Though Peter could only hear Tom's half of the conversation, the pharmacist's strained expression spoke volumes. "Ma'am, I understand it's an emergency, but there's absolutely no way. The roads are already impassable." A pause, then, "Yes, I know what happens when heart medication is missed." Hanging up, Tom turned to Peter, his face etched with concern. That was Margaret Porter's neighbor. Margaret's out of her heart medication. Apparently, her regular prescription is stuck in a delivery truck that can't get through. Without it, she could have a serious cardiac event overnight. "Where does she live?" Peter asked, his hand already instinctively reaching for his keys. "Whispering Pines Road," Tom replied, his voice laced with apprehension. "But Peter, even emergency services have suspended operations. The sheriff's department just issued a shelter-in-place order." Peter peered outside again. The snow was falling even harder now, already 8 inches deep and drifting much higher in spots. Whispering Pines Road lay 20 miles outside of town, a treacherous path winding through the mountains with steep, unforgiving drops on one side. "We can't just let her go without medication," Peter stated quietly, his gaze unwavering. Tom sighed, a silent acknowledgement that Peter's resolve, once set, was unshakable. Without another word, he quickly filled the prescription while Peter started the van, letting its engine warm as he began to scrape the windshield. As Peter wrestled the accumulating snow from his windshield, Tom pressed a thermal blanket, a powerful flashlight, and emergency flares into his hands, along with the vital medication. "At least take these," he urged, his voice laced with concern. "And Peter, if it gets too dangerous, turn back. No delivery is worth your life." Peter gave a silent nod, but in their shared glance, both men understood he would never turn back. The initial 5 miles offered a deceptive ease. The main road, though heavily blanketed, had at least received some treatment before the plows were finally pulled. But the moment Peter turned onto County Road 19, conditions plummeted. His windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the relentless, heavy snow, and despite the chains on his tires, the van lurched and slipped dangerously several times. At the turnoff for Whispering Pines Road, Peter almost missed the snow-obscured sign. This narrow mountain path was utterly untouched by a plow, the snow already cresting well past his hubcaps. Twice he was forced to halt, clambering out to dig his way free from deeper drifts. The wind howled like a banshee around the van, slashing visibility to mere feet at times. "Just 5 more miles," Peter muttered through clenched teeth, his hands clamped so tightly to the steering wheel that his knuckles gleamed white. "Just 5 more miles." An hour crawled by, a journey that typically took a mere 20 minutes. Finally, through the swirling white, Peter caught the faint, welcoming glow of lights filtering through the trees. The Porter cabin, nestled against the mountainside, was barely discernible beneath its thick shroud of snow. As Peter battled his way to the front door, a woman in her 40s flung it open, her face awash with overwhelming relief. "Oh, thank God," she gasped, ushering him quickly inside. "I'm Janet, Margaret's neighbor. I've been so worried. She's already showing signs of distress." In the small, cozy living room, an elderly woman sat huddled in blankets near the crackling fireplace. Her breathing was shallow and labored, her complexion a troubling shade of gray. Peter swiftly handed over the vital medication, and Janet gently helped Margaret take it. "The phone lines are completely down," Janet explained, her voice trembling slightly. "I had to use my emergency satellite phone just to reach the pharmacy. I still can't believe you made it through this storm." "Just doing my job," Peter replied humbly, though all 3 of them knew his actions had soared far, far beyond any mere job description. "You can't possibly drive back tonight," Margaret croaked weakly, her eyes pleading. "Please, stay until morning." Peter glanced out the window at the raging blizzard, its fury only intensifying, and knew she was unequivocally right. He used Janet's satellite phone to call Sarah, reassuring her of his safety, before sinking into the welcoming armchair by the roaring fire. What Peter couldn't have known then was that Janet's desperate emergency call had been logged in a highly specialized system. A system that would soon bring astonishing, unforeseen attention to his selfless act of kindness. By morning, the relentless storm had finally spent its fury, leaving behind a pristine landscape buried under 3 feet of sparkling snow. Peter woke early, his first thought for Margaret. He found her already showing remarkable improvement, her color returned, her breathing calm and steady. "You saved my life," she said simply, her frail hand squeezing his with surprising strength. "I won't ever forget it." "Anyone would have done the same," Peter replied, ever humble, though a silent understanding passed between them that this was far from the truth. No one else had dared to venture out into that unforgiving storm, not even the seasoned emergency services. After a quick, shared breakfast, Peter prepared to head back to town, where he knew Sarah would still be worrying, despite his call. The roads would undoubtedly remain dangerous, but at least now he could see where he was going. Now, "Before you go," Margaret said, her voice gentle yet firm, "I want you to have something." She extended a trembling hand, offering him a small, worn photograph of a young man in a military uniform. "This is my son, Daniel. He would have appreciated what you did last night." Peter studied the image. "He's Air Force?" Peter asked. "Yes," Margaret replied quietly. "He's still serving, but it's complicated. I haven't seen him in over a year." There was clearly more to her story, but Peter, respectful of her privacy, didn't pry. He simply thanked them for their hospitality and headed back outside to painstakingly dig his van out of the deep snow. The drive back was slow yet manageable in the clear daylight. As Peter approached Pine Ridge, he noticed the roads had been plowed far better than he would have expected after such a colossal storm. Upon entering town, he was surprised by an unusual flurry of activity for the morning after a blizzard, people clearing snow with remarkable efficiency, some using specialized equipment he didn't recognize. When Peter finally pulled into his own driveway, Sarah rushed out, engulfing him in a relieved embrace. "Thank God you're safe. You won't believe what's been happening." Before she could elaborate, the distinctive thumping sound of helicopter rotors filled the air. Peter looked up to see a massive military helicopter descending steadily toward the snow-covered field behind their modest home. "What in the world?" he muttered, instinctively pulling Sarah back toward the house. The helicopter, unmarked but undeniably military-grade, landed with precise control in the field. 6 men clad in specialized uniforms emerged, moving with the coordinated efficiency that bespoke elite training. "Peter Cooper!" called out the leader, a tall man with the weathered face of someone who had seen far too many dangerous situations. Peter stepped forward cautiously. "That's me." The man approached and extended a hand. "Master Sergeant Jack Reynolds, Air Force Pararescue. We need to talk about what you did last night." Sarah gripped Peter's arm, her voice edged with worry. "Are you in some kind of trouble?" Reynolds offered a slight smile, the first hint that this was far from a negative encounter. "Quite the opposite, ma'am. Your husband did something extraordinary, and someone very important noticed." Confused, yet undeniably curious, Peter invited them inside. Their small living room seemed to shrink even further with 6 pararescue men, PJs, as they referred to themselves, filling every available space. Reynolds declined coffee but got straight to the point. "Margaret Porter is the mother of Colonel Daniel Porter, commander of our pararescue unit." Peter's mind flashed back to the photograph Margaret had shown him. "He's currently deployed on a classified mission in one of the most dangerous regions in the world." Another team member spoke up. "What she couldn't tell you is that Colonel Porter is one of the most decorated special operators in the Air Force. His team specializes in high-risk extractions of personnel from impossible situations." Reynolds continued. 2 days ago, while Colonel Porter was coordinating a rescue operation, he received an emergency notification through our family alert system. His mother's medical emergency, her failed prescription delivery, and the dangerous weather conditions all triggered the alert. There was nothing the colonel could do from his position. For the first time in his career, he couldn't reach someone who needed rescuing. His own mother? Peter began to grasp why his simple delivery had garnered such extraordinary attention. Then, 8 hours later, the system updated. Someone had reached her, A civilian delivery driver had navigated conditions that even emergency services deemed too dangerous. Sarah squeezed Peter's hand tightly as Reynolds continued. Colonel Porter contacted us directly from the field. His team had just completed their mission, and instead of their scheduled return route, he diverted us here with specific instructions. The master sergeant reached into a tactical bag and pulled out a small wooden box and an official-looking document. "Peter Cooper," Reynolds began, his voice solemn. "On behalf of Colonel Porter and the entire Pararescue community, I'm authorized to present you with this." Inside the box lay a gleaming medallion bearing the Pararescue insignia, angel wings embracing a shield, etched with their motto, "That others may live." "This is our unit's Medal of Courage," Reynolds explained. "It's never been given to a civilian before." He paused, his gaze fixed on Peter. Colonel Porter said, and I quote, "This man embodies our creed better than many who wear the uniform." Peter stared at the medallion, speechless. "I was just delivering medicine in conditions that professional rescuers deemed unsurvivable," one of the other PJs pointed out. "You risked your life to save someone else's mother when her son couldn't reach her. That's exactly what we do every day." Reynolds then handed over the document. "The colonel also authorized me to extend this offer. We'd like you to help us train local emergency services using some of our techniques adapted for civilian use. Your intimate knowledge of the local terrain, combined with our extraction protocols, could literally save lives in future emergencies." Peter looked at Sarah, who nodded, tears of pride streaming down her face. "I'd be honored," he said simply. As the team prepared to depart, Reynolds had one more surprise. "There's someone who wants to speak with you." He handed Peter a satellite phone with a secure connection. The voice that came through was distant, yet clear. "Mr. Cooper, this is Colonel Porter. I'm in a location I can't disclose, but I needed to thank you personally for saving my mother's life." "Anyone would have," Peter began, ever modest. "No," the colonel interrupted, his voice firm. "Anyone wouldn't have. That's precisely the point. Men like you are rare, Mr. Cooper. I've spent my career rescuing people from impossible situations, but I couldn't reach my own mother when she needed me. You did what I couldn't, and I'll never forget it." After the call ended and the Pararescue team departed, Pine Ridge buzzed with the story. The local paper ran a front-page feature, complete with a photo of Peter standing proudly beside the elite Air Force team. But the real change was more subtle and far more impactful. Over the next few months, Peter worked closely with Reynolds and his team, meticulously developing a new emergency response protocol specifically tailored for the remote mountain communities surrounding Pine Ridge. The pharmacy, inspired by Peter's act, expanded its emergency delivery service, with Peter himself training new drivers on vital winter safety protocols, survival techniques he'd learned firsthand from the PJs. A year later, when another formidable blizzard descended upon the region, not a single resident went without critical medication or essential assistance. The very system Peter had helped create worked flawlessly, a powerful synergy of his intimate knowledge of the area and the elite rescue techniques adapted from the Air Force. Margaret Porter eventually moved into town, seeking closer proximity to medical care, but her bond with Peter remained as strong as ever. She would often tell anyone who would listen, "That man drove through hell itself to bring me my heart medicine. And you know what he said when I thanked him? Just doing my job." As if risking his life was all in a day's work. And in a way, for Peter, It was. He never once viewed his actions as extraordinary, merely necessary. The medallion from Colonel Porter's team sat quietly in its wooden box on his mantel, a constant reminder not of his own courage, but of the profound connections that bind us all. Each winter, when the first flakes begin to fall, Peter still loads up his delivery van with the same meticulous preparation. But now, he carries extra equipment. Specialized gear designed by the Pararescue team, adapted specifically for civilian emergency response. And sometimes, on his regular routes, he spots a military helicopter slicing through the sky overhead and raises his hand in a silent salute, remembering the day when his simple act of kindness brought elite rescuers to his very door. The colonel himself visits whenever his demanding schedule allows, joining Peter for coffee at the pharmacy, swapping stories of harrowing rescues in far-flung places. Two men from vastly different worlds, connected by a shared, unshakable belief that no storm is too dangerous when someone's life hangs in the balance. As for Peter, he still brushes off praise with the same humble response. I was just doing my job. But everyone in Pine Ridge knows better. Some people run from danger, some people watch from a distance, and some, the rare ones, drive straight into the storm when someone needs help asking for nothing in return. And sometimes when you least expect it, the world finds a way to recognize that kind of courage, even if it takes an elite military team landing in your backyard to do it.